Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. ASMR scratchy Chanel tissue paper. It has been brought to my attention that I still did not review Chanel Paris Venise. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I actually have two videos on it. One is the unboxing, one is the first impressions. Check those out in the cart section up here, but or in the following the links in the description box down below. But let's do a review of Paris Venice. Now you've requested it. You're in for a treat. Let's get straight to it. There's so much to say about this. First of all, I purchased this in 2018 as it was released. This is what's left of that bottle. This is the first, or one of the first batches. Let's just spray it all over. There you go, full on. The second it was released, I immediately purchased two because I wanted to have the first release. Double, you never know if they reformulate these little guys. You can hear the liquid in it. This one is still sealed, 125 ml. So that's in the archives. And then 1 year later, which was this spring, or late spring, early summer, the 50 milliliter versions were released as well. So I purchased that as well. So I have the 50 ml from the first 50 ml release. Didn't open this one yet because I did not really take this on journeys this summer. I was traveling more with Deauville. So I did open up the 50 ml Deauville. But as you can see, that's also in the collection. As you can see, I'm loving this. Let's get straight to the top notes. We got Petit Grain, then we have lemon, bergamot, orange, and the famous pink pepper. Then we got middle notes, ylang ylang, geranium, rose, iris, neroli. And then it goes on, so again, orange. Then we have violet in the base notes together with orris root, benzoin, white musk, tonka bean, and vanilla. It's one of those rare instances where vanilla plays one of the vital roles in a Chanel release. But, so Olivier Polge, this was the first time that he did really good by Chanel. Well, no, that's not really true. The first time he really did good was his first release, which was Eau Vive. Chanel's Eau Vive, Chance Eau Vive was really good. Then it went a bit, he didn't do really that well with the other ones. Misia was okay. The Eau de Toilette, the Eau de Parfum is not so good. Boy was not really the best thing. L'Eau was okay. Number 5 L'Eau is okay. I like that one quite a bit. But to really say, wow, Olivier did something great and amazing, that's for the first time for me when he released the first 3 Les Eaux, including the 4th one that came out this year, which is Paris Riviera. Grasse and Azur being the 5th and the 6th that will be coming out in the years coming. 2018 is the release. Venice is very important to Chanel. So how does this smell relate to her? You know, the legend wants, and her biography wants, that she was in love with Boy Capel. Boy Capel died. There's several stories behind it. One of them, one of the most tragic ones, is that he was right upon Christmas Eve, was driving to her to the south of France to let her know that he was going to get a divorce and he was going to stay with her. And then he died in a car accident as he was driving to her. She was devastated. One of the legends says, this is again just alleged, that she created the black dress actually to say to the rest of to all the women, I'm going to make every woman in the world mourn for my loss. They will all wear black. The little black dress poetically was formed that way, but then there are other stories as well behind the little black dress. I just like that one the most. We choose our myths, and some of us choose them very carefully. This fragrance opens up mythologically as well. I'm smelling it now. There's a sadness to it, but there's also something comforting and very warm. Warm is not really an adjective that you can attribute easily to Chanel fragrances. Usually they're not warm. Chanel perfumes, sometimes in the dry down, they can have a warmth. This one is warm from the get-go. It's still sparkly, it still has its aldehydes, it still has its opening light and shine, but at the same time, it has a depth of warmth in there. So it's constantly fighting. What else do we have? It's constantly fighting between light and dark. What else do we have in the Chanel universe that relates to Venice? Well, before Olivier took charge of Chanel, we have Jacques Polge. Jacques Polge, his father, who back in 2012 created around Venice an entire advertisement campaign to promote Coco Noir. Coco Noir is also Venice and Chanel. So you can see there's a pattern forming here. Paris Venise isn't the first time that we hear about Venice. We have Boy Capel going to Chanel, dying, and then her being devastated, and then traveling with Misia to Venice. Venice is allegedly the city that made her kind of get over her pains, or I would prefer to think that Venice allowed her to learn to live with her pain. In Venice, she discovered the Byzantine art, the love of ancient history and art connected to fashion, which is then what she would have implemented in her fashion from that moment on. We have the pure perfume of Coco Noir. I love Coco Noir so much. And there's also the 50 ml. This one's a little bit dusty. Or not dusty, they'll have fingerprints. Black is a fingerprint magnet. Coco Noir, I'm going to lift this one because I don't want it to leak. You never know. This is just a splash bottle with a stopper. Coco Noir is connected to Venice. Interesting how the marketing behind Coco Noir was all about kind of what they said was darkness through light revealed. So it's a game of light and darkness. Interestingly enough, a game of light and darkness also happens with Paris Venise. It is warm from the get-go, but the sadness is the dark. The warmth is the sun. The sadness at the base of this fragrance is the darkness. I did mention in my other video, a couple of days prior to this one, that something was similar to Twin Peaks. Well, when I first smelled Paris Venise, the first inspiration I had was, well, to do some research, to look up some images of Venice, of the history of Venice. And what I noticed, again, connected to Twin Peaks, there was, in one of these paintings I saw, was this figure dressed in red, as if it made an outfit out of red curtains from the Red Room. And it could have been Laura Palmer or Carrie Page traveling through time. And Venice is a lot about time travel in general, because the whole concept of Venice, you know, there are no cars in Venice. There are no real streets in Venice. You cannot, there are no cars. When you arrive to Venice, time stops. Literally all of these smells are all around you. Granted, when the channels of Venice are not over stinky and drying up in summer, it could get really stenchy. But even that stench has a quality to it. And for those of us who really love perfumes, we know exactly what we're talking about. Perfumes are not only about pleasant smells. If you really are a lover of fragrances, you also understand the other side of pleasant smells, which is the unpleasant aspect of them. In order to create a lot of pleasant fragrances, you need to go hunting for smells and essences and concentrates and extracts that, in some cases, most of them are illegal nowadays, but derive from glands of living creatures. Or, well, ambergris, look up how that's what that exactly is. I'm not even going to say it on this video because this format doesn't really allow it. Going back to Venice, Karl Lagerfeld, within the Chanel realm, was also extremely inspired by Venice. What he did was he dedicated an entire cruise collection / métier d'art collection, but it was a cruise collection. But kind of Chanel tends to define their cruise collections as if they were partially métier d'art. Anyway, the 2009/10 cruise collection was shown. The fashion show was at the Lido in Venice. It was dedicated to Venice. It was dedicated to the Byzantine aspect of Venice. And I do have some incredible pieces from that collection. The sunglasses were one of the best he ever made, the boutique exclusive. We have Peggy Guggenheim, the Guggenheim Foundation, the Guggenheim Museum, that is in Venice. The Guggenheim Museum is in different parts of the world, but one of the most important ones was in Venice because Peggy herself loved Venice and lived in Venice. And Edward Melcarth, an artist who made for Vampira the bat shades, made the butterfly shades and a copy of the bat shades also for Peggy Guggenheim, who loved them after she has seen them on Vampira. So Lagerfeld bought in his private collection or for the Chanel collection, had one of the copies of the bat glasses, not the Vampira one, but the second copy that Edward Melcarth made. And then inspired by those came these, the Chanel Cruise 2009 Vampire or Vampira Edward Melcarth inspired sunglasses. What else came in that Venetian year was also a boutique exclusive model. By the way, this is the bat version. I also have the butterfly version. I'm just not taking it out of the archives right now because it's wrapped so securely at the moment. Literally, they're the same, just not as tight. They're wider. They're like this much wider. Then we have an in-between model, considered by Chanel, still a boutique exclusive, but deemed by Chanel back in 2009 to be a little bit more sellable because the edges were less pointy, is the bat / butterfly shade with a simpler cut, and metal temples with the logo as well as a bit of acetate. This is also boutique exclusive Cruise Collection 2009, so this is also Venice. And then maybe some of you remember from a certain movie, I'm not going to mention it because it wasn't the best of movies, but this thing. We're just going to let it fly through. Look how huge this box is. Okay, there it goes. Let's open it together. This is the 4th boutique exclusive model. These are sunglasses. They come in this huge box. They're super delicate. Let's be very careful here. This is all connected to Paris Venise, you guys. So if whoever is thinking this is not part of the perfume review, this is part of the perfume review. So, oh my gosh, let me be very cautious here. You can see the logo at the tip of this stick. Some of you already know what this is. For those of you who don't know, you're going to have a pleasant surprise. Oh my gosh, these are the Venetian Masquerade sunglasses from the Cruise Venice Collection 2009 on a stick. So revolutionary because, I mean, super simple. I love the fact that they're just so boring at the top here. But, and they have that kind of Venetian type of styling of logos on top, on tips of sticks and pointy objects. You literally, you know, it's a mask. You have to hold it in your hand while you're protecting your eyes. And what does this mean? This means that it's so unpractical. You cannot use sunglasses. You cannot use your hands while you're wearing sunglasses. I love it. It's so decadent to a degree where luxury really cannot go more decadent than this, unless you needed both hands to hold an object, or then you have people that you pay to hold it for you. I mean, that's just decadent, pure decadence. So these were featured in a movie, also in a TV show, but very, very special, very limited piece. So that was also part of the Venetian inspiration that the brand Chanel went through, not just Coco Chanel herself through her pains and struggles and then refound love of the arts. For me personally, my connection to Venice and Chanel was back in 2016. I went to the Chanel boutique in Venice. I was in Venice and I found one of the loves of my life, which is this particular bag purchased in the Chanel boutique in Venice. It is the super rare mini, square mini in jersey. It's a square mini in jersey. You could check out in the card section up here. Click on there to see the unboxing and review of this bag. Leather on the inside, jersey on the outside. Classic Chanel jersey with light toned gold hardware. The pocket in the back. I mean, this bag, particularly in autumn and winter, is so amazing because whenever you touch it, it's always warm. You know, leather in winter gets cold to the touch. You need to warm it up when you're outside. This one is always warm, Whenever you touch it, it's warm. It's just amazing. Even the chain here is out of jersey. So yes, you have a little bit of the metal that gets cold, but the jersey is warm. So you have that tingly, sparkly, like the aldehydes and the fragrance, Paris Venise, the sparkle in the opening notes. That's how you feel when you touch this chain. You feel the gold of the metal, you feel the cold of the metal, but at the same time you feel the warmth of the jersey. And so your skin has both sensations at the same time, and it creates a sensation of tingling, sparkling, just like aldehyde sparkle in Paris Venise. So as you can see, there's a lot going on when it comes to Chanel and Venice. So Paris Venise is just another chapter inside this very, very, very long novel that is being written about Chanel, Paris, and Venice. As the smell progresses on my hand, it becomes more creamy, more dense. In a way moist, but there's also dryness to it. Like all Chanel fragrances, there's dry aspects and there's wet aspects. Usually the dry notes are connected to a cold type of detachment. Number 19 being supreme in that respect or in that regard, as an example of cold detachment and just sophisticated, austere type of French, snobby in a good way in this case, elegance. Effortless chic, that's number 19. Venice is not 19. Venice has nothing to do with Chanel number 19. Venice is warm, but it is on the sea. Something bad can happen at any moment. A ship can sail in and it could deliver terrible news. Horrible weather can happen, could strike the city, and you know, Venice has huge issues today with cruise ships that are still allowed to sail into Venice, lifting the water levels so high, and you get flooding constantly in Venice. You could imagine how terrible. People live in fear of always constantly water flooding their houses. And you're living on the edge. It's a little bit like, you know, the whole Californian coast is kind of always talking about the big one, you know, that big earthquake that might hit and might eradicate everything. Similar happens to Venice, maybe on a slower scale because it's been sinking. The concept of the city of Venice today is very poetic, but so tragic because we know that the city is dying. It's sinking. And the city is investing a lot of money to try to lift it, to try to build more wood constructions or whatever type of constructions underneath the water to keep the city afloat, but it is sinking. Everything has to come to an end. There's a beauty to it. Venice is so beautiful, it's like untouched by time because also there are no cars in there. There's so much art in there still. And yet it is visibly dying in front of our very eyes. And that again is connected to this fragrance. Like all perfumes, they have a lifespan on your skin. You apply them, they're born, they develop, you have the mid notes, and then you get the dry down, and then slowly the fragrance dies on your skin. You witness the lifespan of a fragrance on your body. That's why Paris Venise is particularly poetic, because it goes really that extra mile in terms of longevity-wise. Of all the Les Eaux, this one together with Deauville stays the longest on the skin. But Paris Venise, because of also the benzoin and the musks in the base notes, it does tend to stay on my skin over 7 hours. But I've heard other people say that it lives on their skin not more than 3. On me, it works in summer, winter. I've had now a year to test it. It works all year round, but I don't use it very often. I mean, I do. You see, I almost finished the bottle, but I don't use it as often as I would like to use it because of the sadness that it conveys. Because of that, because I have a personal connection to Venice as well. And so every time I wear it, I can't help myself. It just makes me sad. Of course, in the best of ways, it's you know, for every artist, sadness is a good thing. It inspires you. It inspires you to become more creative. It inspires you to question things. It inspires you to write. It inspires you to draw, to film, to paint, to communicate. And it's amazing, but sometimes it can get overpowering. It can get overpowering when, especially in today's day and age where, gosh, our society is going through a terrible phase. And oftentimes, I don't want this to sound too negative now, but There are moments when I myself feel like, okay, no matter what I say, I just won't be understood. No matter what I do, it just won't be perceived the right way. It just won't be understood. It won't be appreciated. So there's a lot of self-doubt. And smelling this fragrance, it's funny. From one point, it makes you feel like that it's okay. That self-doubt is part of the creative process. And it comforts you. It's a very comforting smell. But on the other hand, this smell also instigates an extreme awakening awareness of the fact that you will be misunderstood. You can't always please everybody. There's always going to be somebody out there who's just going to say no, no matter what you do. There's always going to be somebody out there who's going to say, I hate you, no matter how hard you try to be lovable, to respect everybody, to listen to everybody. You know how hard it is nowadays to find people who listen? Everybody's just blabbering on about their own ego shite, but nobody really listens. And you are on your own. You have the feeling no matter how loud you try to scream to the world, there's just your own echo bouncing back at you. And that's how Paris Venise sometimes feels. And that has a particular poetry and beauty to it at times. At other times, it just raises that awareness of solitude. Chanel found a way to survive and strive within her solitude thanks to Venice, thanks to the art that she discovered in Venice, thanks to the way she bonded with Misia while she was in Venice. It was in her heart, and it took up a little part of the space in her heart that had died as Boy Capel had passed away. Coco allowed Venice to enter inside of her heart, occupy a little bit of that space that was damaged and was a void after Boy was gone. I'm smelling it now again. There's a sophistication to this fragrance, I can't tell you. The warmth in it is unlike any other warmth in other Chanel fragrances, perhaps maybe a little bit reminiscent of the Eau de Toilette of number 22. They are very different, but number 22, you know, has incense. Here we don't really have the incense. I mean, we do have orris root, which can be leathery, and we do have benzoin and musk. They're not incensey, but the tonka bean might, I know actually there's no incense in here. No matter how hard I try to kind of find some note in here, there might be a little bit incensey like the original 22 had, no. But the 22 that we have today, I'm not talking about the pure perfume, I'm talking about the Eau de Parfum. That one is not incensey, does have that vanilla tone to it, similar concept, and also with, you know, all the orange and the neroli is, or orange blossom is kind of the only fragrance that maybe has a reminiscence to this one. But still, Venice is its own creation. Interesting also to note that there's a whole body range line. I haven't purchased the actual body lotion or shower gel of Paris Venise, but I do have a sample here. These are like kind of the luxury samples that Chanel gives out. You have the body lotion sample here, then you got the hair and body shower gel, 7 ml, 7 ml, and then you get 1.5 or 1 milliliter, 1.5 ml Eau de Toilette spray. So this is kind of an interesting sample, very giving. Thank you, Chanel, for that. Well, let's put this one here. So you can imagine there's a whole world surrounding Paris Venise, and it's not just this fragrance. There's all of this happening on top of that. So you have to be always aware. Chanel is also a brand that has been around for so long, and the history of Coco herself is so complex and so full of myth. All of that adds up. So if somebody who has some sort of creative say or power within this brand and who does develop a concept for something new, you know, they take in consideration all of those steps that have been done prior to the new creation. And if you do take in consideration all of the heritage and history of a brand leading up to the point of releasing a product like Paris Venise, then you got yourself a really interesting product, because you're literally adding another chapter to an endless book, you know, the never-ending story. Not just the movie, but it could be the never-ending story of Coco Chanel, because, I mean, she lives through all of these myths and all of these retellings and reiterations of all of these stories. This fragrance, in particular, its strength is that it encapsulates a little bit of each chapter of this story that has been told up until this moment in time when connected to Coco Chanel's life, her connection to Venice, and then the brand's life and the brand's connection to Venice in regards to remembering Chanel's connection to Venice. What does this mean? This means connection to Coco Noir and how that was created in 2012, how in 2009/10 Lagerfeld presented and created the Venice Cruise collection. My own personal interpretation of all of this, and then my love of Venice and of Chanel, and then like this particular jersey edition chapter added to my personal story connected to Chanel. There's just so much. This fragrance is just that beautiful because it connects everything. It's as if it were the glue that connected all the pieces together for now. But who knows what the future will bring? Who knows what other new chapters connected to Venice will come in terms of Chanel. I'm sure there's a lot more to write about this beautiful city connected to this beautiful person, which was and still is to me Coco Chanel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this review, and I hope you also understand actually why it took me so long to review it. I mean, it is a painful fragrance, but it's a pain in the most beautiful of ways. It's the most beautiful pain you can have, if that makes any sense to you. And if that did make any sense to you, then you understand exactly why it took so long to review this one. Then you understand exactly why I say that pain can be beautiful, and also why I say that there is hope, like light in here, but there's also darkness, sadness, a whiff of depression in here as well. It's all connected to that city, and Venice is the key. The city of Venice in particular is the key to understanding many, many aspects of Coco herself and also of ourselves. I would suggest anybody who can afford it in their life at least once to go visit Venice and find themselves in Venice, because there's a little bit of each and every one of us in that city. You just got to find yourself in that special part of the city that belongs to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you like this review. If you have, please do thumb it up and let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. If you haven't already but wish to, consider subscribing to my channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, superdacob all spelled together. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank all my patrons on Patreon. Yes, I'm also on Patreon, also superdacob all spelled together. There you get a chance to see videos that either come first to Patreon, then to YouTube, or are exclusive only to Patreon, as well as exclusive photos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, never forget to never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye.